Hi everyone, welcome to the Bourbon Obsessed Bourbon Release Podcast for Thursday, April 17th. I am Ed from BourbonObsessed.com, also known on Instagram as Bourbon_Obsessed. As you probably know by now, we've broken up our podcast this week and we've already done the news episode, which was posted on Monday, so you can go back and listen to that if you haven't. And this episode is going to be just about the new bourbon releases because there are so many of them this week. I am here again with my friend and bourbon aficionado, Dean Langdon. Dean, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Ed. Good to be here as always. People can find me on Instagram as Dean of Bourbon with underscores. And feel free to reach out to me there. I promise to get back with you within a week.
Is that how things work with lawyers?
That's how things work with me on Instagram. Sorry, but it's I'm not good at instantaneous. So,
well, do we want to talk about anything, or do we want to just dive right in?
Let's talk. There's so many releases. Let's just dive into them and see what happens.
Probably should do that. Alrighty, so our first one, Copper Cask, has introduced the limited edition Small Batch 10. A 20-year-old hazmat cigar blend. It is a 20-year-old blended Canadian whiskey crafted from 15 hand-selected barrels distilled and filled in Alberta, Canada. After aging for more than 19 years in their original casks, the whiskey was blended in micro batches and rebarreled into Armagnac and Tawny Port finishing casks for several months. It was then married, rested, and bottled at 145.2 proof. The suggested retail price is $79.99 for a 750 milliliter bottle.
For those hazmat fans out there, this is a real find. I mean, that's an excellent price point at $80 for a hazmat bottle. Canadian whiskey is an interesting product. They're 20 years isn't as old, as it would be as if it was a bourbon. So. I'd love to find this and try it. There's only 1,800 bottles is the whole run, so I don't know where it's going to be available, but I would be more than happy to shell out $80 to try, a blend of 20-year-old Canadian whiskeys finished. And, the finishes sound good also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm very interested to try it as well. So our next is the Last Drop Distillers is delighted to announce its 2025 collection featuring 3 whiskeys that celebrate the unique maturation methods used by the most prestigious distilleries around the world. These include a 27-year-old bourbon from Buffalo Trace, 121.8 proof, SRP of $10,500 for a 750 milliliter, a 55-year-old single malt scotch from Tomintoul Distillery. You always get the easy part of not having to try to pronounce everything.
Tomintoul.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. No,
I don't know.
That sounds good to me.
All right. 86.2 proof. Suggested retail price of $6,950 for a 750 milliliter bottle. And the last is a 22-year-old Japanese blended malt whiskey from Hanyu Distillery. And that's bottled at 118.2 proof. And it's priced at $5,500 for a 750 milliliter bottle. But don't worry, because each one comes packed with a 50 milliliter miniature bottle, so you're really getting 800 milliliters.
Well, I got the impression that you were only getting 750 and that it was a 700 ml bottle and a 50 ml bottle. I could be wrong about that.
Well, you could be right about it, too.
Yeah. So I think either way.
Well, go home and get your bottle, and we'll look at the label.
It's still being shipped, and they probably ship these in an armored car, don't you? I mean, at that price point, I'm impressed that the bourbon is bringing the premium price out of all this. That speaks to the collectability, the value of bourbon in the whiskey world.
Well, that's pretty rare. A 27-year-old bourbon from Buffalo Trace.
Right.
I mean, what's the oldest? I mean, they had the Pappy 25,
right?
Which I think that originally retailed for $10,000 or something like that. Which I don't think you could find that for even close to
not anymore
that price.
Right. Yeah. So
I've never tasted a Buffalo Trace product that old.
Never. And 508 bottles of the Buffalo Trace. I mean, these are really, really limited, of course. I I also could be wrong about this, but I thought that if you wanted to buy all three, you might get a slight discount.
Did it say that?
I could be wrong. I could be making that up, but
no, we have another one along the line where if you buy all three, you get a discount. Right. I don't
I'm
think.
Confused. So yeah, the Japanese whiskey looked interesting to me too. It's finished in Mizunara casks.
Yeah,
and so out of all of them, I mean, I'd love to try any of them. Get me wrong, but the Japanese was the most intriguing because of that.
Well, I mean, from all sides, a 55-year-old single malt Scotch. That sounds pretty interesting.
It does. Yeah. I mean, that's it was about when we were born, right, Ed? So.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I'd love to try these, but don't think I'll be rushing out and. I mean, how hard are these? Do you think they're impossible to buy? Like, are they even around if you want one?
I bet you can get one, but you know what? I wonder if there would be a secondary market for the 50 mLs, right? I mean, I like that because if I'm buying one of these, I'm not going to drink it, but I'd open the 50 ml and drink that so I know what I've got. You could probably sell those and get part of your money back.
Always scheming over here.
The bourbon world is tough, you know?
It is. Well, maybe someday we'll get the opportunity to try one of those.
I'm surprised they didn't send you samples, Ed.
I know.
They don't know what they're missing.
Yes, and neither do we. Moving on, we're at a little different price point on the next one. Penelope Bourbon has introduced a new ready-to-pour peach old-fashioned, which was developed in conjunction with Nashville cocktail creator Tim Beckner. It blends Penelope's award-winning straight bourbon and rye whiskey with peach bitters and farm-sourced 100% pure maple syrup, creating a balanced, sophisticated twist on the classic old-fashioned. Bottled at 80 proof, it is available in 750 milliliter bottles for a suggested price of $29.99.
I love the way how you've put these next to each other, where we've got the extremes of the market.
It was pure coincidence.
The 5-figure bourbons and the $30, peach old fashions. But it's interesting that Penelope is reaching out into this market. I think now that they are back as a part of whatever you want to call it, MGP, Ross and Squibb, it's got 8 different names. They've always struggled to market their product. And
but only one name that anybody uses.
Well, that's right. It's MGP. But if they can use the brains of Penelope to help market their product, more power to them. And maybe that's the start of what's going on here.
Yeah, I mean, I think, this segment of the market's been pretty popular. Mm-hmm. And Penelope's always been pretty reasonably priced. I mean, especially for their regular releases. I mean, they get up a little higher in some of the limited ones, and then of course some of them are hard to find, so they have a secondary value. But for the we'll just say everyday, I mean, not to belittle them, their prices have always been very reasonable. So I think this is a good price point for the brand. I think it's something that a lot of people will like nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, I don't usually buy pre-mixed cocktails. The maple syrup is an interesting twist here. I don't know that I've had an old fashioned with maple syrup, and so I'm curious. So I hope somebody will have it and offer me one, because I'm not going to go buy it.
We didn't have a maple syrup one as one of my welcome cocktails, because I've made maple syrup old fashions. They're difficult because maple syrup is really strong.
Yes.
So you have to go very light on it. It's different than you'd use any of the other sweeteners.
Right.
But it makes for a nice.
It seems like it's going to be a better taste for it. And peach and maple together sound just delectable.
No, it does sound really good.
Yeah.
So next is Elijah Craig is proud to announce its designation as the official bourbon of the 2025 PGA Championship, taking place at Quail Hollow Club in Charlotte, North Carolina in May. To mark this prestigious partnership and celebrate the championship, Elijah Craig has released a special commemorative bottle of its iconic 94 proof small batch bourbon. It is crafted from carefully selected barrels from Heaven Hills Distillery Q and H1 Brickhouses, paying homage to the PGA Championship's return to Quail Hollow Club. I like that. Q and H1 for Quail Hollow.
It's a marketing coup.
It is. And it's available now It's bottled at 94 proof for an SRP of $36.99.
I think it's a good pairing. We're seeing more cross-marketing between bourbon and various sports. Golf seems like a nice mix. This is not the first year, I think, that Elijah Craig has been the bourbon of PGA events.
No, they've been getting more and more involved with PGA. And last year they released I don't remember what Rickhouses, but they released a bottle for that as well.
Yeah. And so it's it should help drive sales. It should help expand the market. Somebody tries this, out at the Quail Hollow Golf Course. They like it. They start becoming a regular customer because it's not, as I understand it, it's regular old Elijah Craig. It may come from these two Rickhouses, but it's the same Elijah Craig you're going to get when you buy that $7.50 in your liquor store. So,
And I think they're having other activations on site at these tournaments where people can get cocktails and other kind of things made with the Elijah Craig products. So
yeah, blow it all out. It's you got to get your name out there, and Elijah Craig's a good one.
Yeah. Good Trouble Bourbon is a bold new bourbon that marries exceptional craftsmanship and social advocacy. Founded by Chicago entrepreneur and social impact advocate D.M. Robinson, Good Trouble Bourbon is more than a spirit. It's a symbol of resilience, purpose, and the power of challenging the status quo, and urges its drinkers to look for good trouble. A portion of proceeds supports the Shine Your Light Foundation, a 501c3 nonprofit that supports inclusivity, equity, and tolerance through community-driven initiatives. It's bottled at 92 proof and has an SRP of $49.99.
I love the mission behind this. I don't know how I feel about bourbons having missions. It's sort of like, in my mind, the celebrity endorsement. But it's sort of hard not to be hooked by Good Trouble. Good Trouble just sort of resonates with me, and everybody should get into Good Trouble. And if this bourbon helps you do that, good on them. Yeah,
I mean, there's certainly nothing wrong with doing some good.
That's right. Right. Well, and this was, I noticed that Jacob Call was the distiller on this in Western Kentucky, and he's a good distiller from everything I've seen. Mash bill 70 corn, 21 rye, 9% malted barley. So that's a relatively, I think, well-known mash bill. So I'll be looking for it on the shelf.
Well, that was actually making me wonder how long this project has been going on, because so that's Green River's bourbon mash bill, but Jacob Call is now at Western Kentucky Distilling, and he's been there for a while. I mean, not a long while, but 2 years now? I don't know. I've lost track of time, and I don't remember when they started distilling, but I don't think they would have anything coming from there going into this at this point. So I'm assuming this project started when he was at Green. We're reading a lot into this, but I mean, I'd assume the project started when he was at Green River, if that's who she was working with at the time.
That would make sense, and it'll be interesting to see if they do. How can they expand on this? Will they do annual releases? It looks like it seems like it's won a lot of awards already. I didn't realize it was on the market.
Well, I think it's just coming on the market. A lot of things, bourbons, they get entered in competitions long before they come out. I mean, that's why you see things winning awards when it's never been available before. Okay. So that's just how things operate. So
I bet a lot of our listeners didn't know that, just like me as one of your listeners. So it's good to know. So you see a bourbon, you've never seen it before, it already has awards. Well, that's how.
Yeah. All right, next we've got Wild Turkey. So Wild Turkey Distilling Company announced that it is bringing Wild Turkey 101 8-year-old bourbon to the United States as a permanent offering, with the product rolling out on shelves alongside the classic Wild Turkey 101 this April. In recent years, Wild Turkey 101 8-year-old bourbon has exclusively been available in select export markets. Compared to the standard Wild Turkey 101 offering that is made using a blend of 6 to 8-year-old bourbons, Wild Turkey 101 8-year is blended from a smaller batch of barrels that are hand-selected for the characteristics and complexity they'll bring to a neat pour. It's bottled at 101 proof, as you might expect from the name, and the SRP is $45, which is interesting because that's significantly higher than regular 101.
I was just thinking, I mean, it's about, almost a 50% premium
or more
on regular 101, and it's 6 to 8 years, is my recollection. So it's building on the legend, right? I mean, it used to be an export product. You couldn't get it here. So I think that's what they're trying to capitalize on, and if they can do that, great.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think if I've ever had it, but the export version.
Mm-hmm.
But what I have had is that 70th anniversary
Right.
Jimmy Russell one that just came out, which was also like 8 to 9 year old barrels, and that was really good.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely, it is I mean, I like regular 101, but it is that the Jimmy Russell 70th one was definitely a step up, I think, in flavor. It was very. Were you at the Thanksgiving bottle share?
I believe so. I know I tried it. I don't remember if it was that bottle share.
Because it was very popular.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was.
The whole bottle got drunk except for about 2 ounces of
right,
it. It was one of the most popular things there, and there were some really good things there. So everybody loved it. So, if this is anything like that, I think
it's sort of like Wild Turkey Maker's Mark has its product and they have a 101. So and it's sort of bolder and brings out more of what you look for in Maker's Mark. This is, to me, sort of along the same theme. Mm-hmm. You're not going to change the proof, but you're changing the age statement and making it all 8 year. It'll be a smaller grouping of barrels than the regular 101. So I'm looking forward to trying it. I'm going to struggle because of just my economics of, is it really worth, that much? Is it that much better, right, than the regular Wild Turkey 101? So time will tell.
But needless to say, in the overall scheme of things, $45 for 8 year plus barrels at 101 proof, that's really competitive.
Hard to beat. I mean, you used to be able to get Henry McKenna 10-year-old bottle of Bond for that. You don't anymore, but yeah, it's when you look at it that way, it's a fair price point.
Yeah,
and it makes regular 101 even a better bargain. That's the way I look at that. So
absolutely. So next, the Jack Daniel Distillery announced the release of a new limited edition Jack Daniel's Tennessee whiskey in celebration of its continued partnership with the McLaren Formula One team. The 2025 limited edition McLaren Racing X Jack Daniel's Tennessee whiskey is elevated at 86 proof. So by that they mean higher than the regular Jack Daniel's proof, and incorporates bold packaging designs that nod to the unmatched histories of both brands. And it has an SRP of $34.99 for a 700 milliliter bottle.
And so for all the F1 fans out there, this is a coup for Jack Daniels. McLaren won the Constructor Championship last year, which is the team championship in F1. Their lead driver, Lando Norris, did not win the Drivers' Championship. And this podcast is being recorded before I know race results from this weekend, but Lando's in first so far this year as far as the leading driver in F1, and the other driver for McLaren is Oscar Piastri. He's in third. So this is going to be some worldwide, it's not like Jack Daniels needs worldwide recognition, they already have that, but it's just going to spread it even more because the F1 audience is huge. And, it's a coup in my brain for them to be able to get this linkage.
Well, this is at least the second year. I don't know if it's more than that.
Mm-hmm.
It's the very distinctive packaging that you
right.
end up seeing on the shelf. And it looks good in your McLaren, right?
Well, yes, of course. I don't even, I wouldn't put it in the trunk except there isn't one. But.
Moving onward. So... Pursuit Spirits has introduced the Melwood Legacy Collection with 2 new limited releases available exclusively at the distillery and to P Club members. The Melwood Legacy Collection is a tribute to the rich distilling history of the site and the iconic Melwood brand. Melwood Bottled in Bond Bourbon is a 6-year-old Kentucky straight bourbon bottled at 100 proof and priced at $29.99 for a 375 milliliter bottle. Derby Town Barrel Proof Bourbon is a 7-year-old Kentucky straight bourbon bottled at 122.8 proof and priced at $49.99 for a 375 milliliter bottle.
So before we started, Ed, we were talking about, how do you market as a smaller distillery? And that we were both thinking that you market sort of not locally but regionally. This is an excellent example of that. It's got limited availability. You've got to go to the distillery or be one of their club members. They're doing it in 375s, which is part of the historical, it looks like a hip flask kind of thing, as opposed to a regular, 750 ml bottle. I'm glad they're bringing back some history to that. The distillery was raised, but they're close to what used to be a big, long-standing distillery.
Right. Well, they're on that Millwood Avenue. I think they're in the area where this used to be before it was knocked down.
They're at the corner of Millwood and Frankfort and Louisville, and they do a podcast that's not anywhere close to as good as ours.
Well, rising tides raise all ships, so we'll see.
That's true.
They are as good as ours.
Yeah, they are. They're wonderful guys. They make good bourbon, and they have great insights into the bourbon world. So.
Yes. So Casey Jones Distillery in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, has announced the Finish Line collection. This is what you were thinking of earlier. Of finished bourbons and barrel-aged moonshine. Expressions include Barrel Cut, which is their 50-50 corn and cane sugar mash, finished, and that's barrel-aged, finished in Amburana barrels, and that's bottled at 112.8 proof. A high corn bourbon finished in apricot wine casks, and that's bottled at 100.5 proof. And a wheated bourbon finished in maple syrup casks, bottled at 105 proof. They're available for pre-order now and for purchase at the distillery beginning on May 2nd. And the SRP is $89.99 for a 750 milliliter bottle, and the price is the same for all of them. And this one, there is a discount if you purchase all three. At least if you pre-order purchase. I don't know if that holds for if you buy them on the day of sale at the distillery.
I mean, I'll give them credit for the creativity. I would not, if you'd asked me what's a new product somebody could try, I wouldn't have come up with any of these three. And they're they could be just really good. I'm not going to go to the Derby Watch Party. This is part of their Derby Watch Party. That's what they're having on May 2nd and 3rd, and I think that's how they hope to sell them. There's only apparently 50 bottles of each one of these.
So for available online purchase, but I think there's like 100 bottles of each total. It's still very limited.
Still very limited, so...
but they're also having a dinner that's paired with them. I don't remember exactly what day it is, but the information's on their website. I mean, I've been a Casey Jones fan for a long time, and I'm interested to try them, but I'm not sure I'll be able to make it down there.
Have you pre-ordered?
No.
We're gonna have to come up with the Patreon folks are gonna have to help us out here, right? And fund a pre-order. We're gonna get a discount, folks. So just send your donations, and we'll report back on the next tasting event on how these things work. So
yeah, I don't. Not sure Dean's tactics are the best. Especially because we don't actually have a Patreon audience. But maybe we will someday. Our next is, we talked about this on the news podcast, but it falls in here as well. So Maker's Mark announced the debut of Star Hill Farm Whiskey, the distillery's first new mash bill and first wheat whiskey, celebrating the role regenerative agriculture plays in creating healthier soil, better flavor, and a more sustainable future. The 2025 release of Star Hill Farm Whiskey is crafted from two mash bills, one with 70% soft red winter wheat and 30% malted barley, and the other with 100% malted soft red winter wheat. It's bottled at 114.7 proof with an SRP of $100. It will be available at select retailers nationwide and for purchase at the Maker's Mark Distillery on May 13th, or by booking a Star Hill Farm whiskey experience at Maker's Mark.
So this is somewhat earth-shattering for Maker's Mark to have a totally new product. I mean, not just a variation on their existing mash bill, but a new mash bill, new product. It's not a bourbon, it's a whiskey. And I don't know that I've had wheat whiskey. I don't know if I've ever had a malted wheat whiskey. So I'm really looking forward to trying this one way or the other.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. I mean, that 100% malted wheat mash bill is quite intriguing to me. And I mean, of course, the soft red winter wheat is what Maker's Mark uses as their wheat. I mean, for anybody that might not know, I mean, Maker's Mark uses wheat as their secondary grain after corn instead of using rye, which is the more common thing to do. So, they're staying along the same track of what they do. It's all fits in line.
Yeah, and it's again, this is going to be an estate whiskey. It's going to be, the grains will be grown there. It'll be made there, distilled, bottled, aged, everything right there on site. So it'll have that certification. It's just another way that they're sort of pushing the envelope in the whiskey world. So.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely eager to try that as well. So next is another story with Maker's Mark, also a duplicate from our news show, but it fits in here again as well. So the Keeneland Racecourse and Maker's Mark today, or not today, the day the press release came out, they have announced the second bottle in the Greats of the Gate 10-year commemorative bottle series. Proceeds from each year's limited edition bottle benefit nonprofits that support Kentucky's horse racing industry and a vibrant culture of hospitality and the arts. The 2025 Greats of the Gate bottle will honor the legendary racehorse Lexington, who competed from 1853 to 1855, winning 6 of 7 races, and was famously sold to stud for the highest price ever paid for an American racehorse at the time. It's available beginning April 11th, which was a couple of days ago, for an SRP of $179.99.
So this also ties in with, this is Lexington, Kentucky's, the city's 250th birthday. It also ties in with that. It has orange wax on the top, which was Lexington, the horse's racing silks colors. But it's a little bit higher price point than the Maker's Mark commemorative bottles I recall. Ed, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's significantly higher. And I can't remember what last year's cost, because this is the second in the series. I'm assuming it must have been similar. But yeah, I mean, 180, because it's just classic Maker's Mark that's in the bottle. So you're really just paying for the bottle and you're making a contribution to the charities. But yeah, I was a little surprised at the price point. Right. Myself.
Well, and it's I'm glad to raise money for charity. And I hope they sell through the lot and help out. This is doing the Thoroughbred Retirement Farm, if I remember correctly, is the charity that's being supported, and so that's a good cause. People don't understand what happens to retired horses, but somebody has to take care of them, and the owners, after they have used them, often don't. So help these horses out, folks.
Well, hopefully our owners will take good care of us when we're done.
We hope so. Just put me out to pasture there at Maker's. That'd be lovely.
Because I don't see a charitable foundation coming around anytime soon to take care of us. Before we go on, I just wanted to clarify the charities that the proceeds from the sales of these bottles will support. They will support the Kentucky Classic Arts by providing support for musical theater performance opportunities for Central Kentucky, Kentucky Harvest by expanding their food rescue and donation efforts across the Commonwealth, the Kentucky Arts Center of the Bluegrass by providing free entry to guests for the museum along with arts programming, and Bluegrass Farms Charities through building a new pantry opening this summer at the Thoroughbred Center. Now let's return to our show. So Jefferson's Bourbon has announced the release of Jefferson's Reserved Cask Strength, a new limited edition bourbon bottled at a robust 130 proof, aged for 8 years in new charred American oak barrels and non-chill filtered. It's available now at select retailers, bars, and restaurants across the U.S. for a suggested retail price of $69.99 for a 750 milliliter bottle.
that's up there on the proof point. That's got a a limited market, but a very avid market for the higher proof bourbons. It's certainly a fair price for that proof point. I'm always a little miffed because Jefferson's doesn't really tell you a lot about their bourbon, as far as where it was from and things like that. But I've always been pleased with Jefferson's bourbon whenever I drink it. So.
Yeah, I mean, the original premise when they started was to get bourbons from different places and then blend them, and so that's sort of baked into the brand itself.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I like getting all the details of everything as well. So, but I'm not going to argue the price. I mean, 130 proof 8-year for $69.99. That's not something you see every day.
No, you don't. So it's looking forward to trying that one. Also, we'll be sipping that one slowly.
Yes. Now, the next one is not exactly a bourbon, but everybody loves ice cream. So, Graeter's Ice Cream and New Riff Distilling announced today their first ever collaboration. Graeter's Bourbon Ball Ice Cream. Inspired by the classic Kentucky confection, this indulgent new flavor is a rich bourbon-infused ice cream with whiskey-glazed pecans and dark chocolate chips. Each bite captures the signature flavors from a hand-selected single barrel of New Riff's expertly crafted bourbon, offering a one-of-a-kind ice cream experience that blends tradition, craftsmanship, and indulgence. Are you going to indulge, Dean?
I very well might. I like Graeter's ice cream. It's one of the premium high-end ice cream makers out of Cincinnati, and of course New Riff is just across the river. This is one of those sort of regional pairings that makes sense to me. It's interesting that it's a single barrel. I'm just thinking the significance of that is sort of lost once you put it in an ice cream, but I could be wrong about that.
Is it? How many single barrel ice creams have you had?
I haven't had any. Who knows? I could be, like I said, I could be totally wrong.
Well, it'd be nice if I'm just throwing this out there, but it'd be great to have like comparison pints of ice cream, some made with single barrels or different single barrels, and see if we can tell them apart.
That'd be awesome. Right. I think
I'm willing to help out.
I am too. We will sacrifice. We'll sacrifice our waistlines for this project. So, but I think it's a great pairing. Again, I mean, there some synergy between a couple of regional brands in the same geographic area. They're going to have, I think, a sort of a kickoff party at the distillery where you can sample it for free. So we
missed it.
Well, darn.
I think it was yesterday.
Yeah. I knew I missed something yesterday.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, there's too many things going on. But yes, I would have loved to have tried it. But we definitely have to get a pint or two. Rolling Fork Spirits has released Batch 2 of Bourbon Deluxe, a limited edition Kentucky straight bourbon that revives a historic brand dating back to 1911. This new release is a small batch blend of 6 barrels of 8-year-old bourbon sourced from 2 Bardstown distilleries, bottled at cask strength, which is 119 proof. The blend includes 4 barrels with a 60% corn, 36% rye, and 4% malted barley mash bill, and 2 barrels with a 75% corn, 21% rye, and 4% malted barley mash bill. Only 1,116 bottles are available, and it seems like they're only available at sealbox.com, and they're priced at $64.99. So did you Google those mash bills so we know where it's...
I did not. I mean, the 7121-4 is familiar to me, but I can't line it up with the distillery. I bet you can.
If I Google it.
If I Google it, okay. So, I mean, this is their second batch. This is twice the size of their first batch, but it's only like 1,100 bottles, so it's not a huge run. The price point again for 8-year-old, 120 proof, 119 proof at $65. That's
been the trend
fair.
We've been seeing. I mean, these 6-year-old is the new 4, 8-year-old is the new 4.5. I mean, it's
there's more good product out there, folks. Take advantage of it.
Yeah, I'm interested to try this too. I never got to try the first one, but I am a big fan of the Rolling Fork rum. I mean, because it's. Have you had?
I've had Rolling Fork rum. I'm not a rum fan, but I've tried theirs. I think they've done a good job of starting with that, and now they're branching out into this. They've got a familial connection, I think, to. I mean, this brand goes back to National Distillers, and then it was bought by Jim Beam, and eventually Jim Beam wasn't using it, so I gather they sold it to Rolling Fork, who had resurrected it. And I love seeing some history come back. It's a very ornate, if you will, dated label. It's an old school kind of label, so it's really cool.
Not from back in the days when Lexington the racehorse was running.
Not that dated, but no, it was pre-prohibition. The label looks pre-prohibition to me. So
again, I don't really remember those times.
Come on, Ed, we do.
So our last new release is Chattanooga Whiskey has unveiled its founder's 13th anniversary blend, a Cellar-style expression curated annually by founder Tim Piersant to honor the brand's past, present, and future. This year's blend comprises 3 Cellar-finished whiskeys, 23% of the original 1816 High Rye Bourbon, which is the past, 58% of the Barrel 91 Tennessee High Malt recipe, which is the present, and 19% from the innovative Infinity Barrel, which is the future. The 13th anniversary blend is available at the Chattanooga Whiskey Experimental Distillery starting on April 11th, which again was a couple of days ago, and will be released in select states and online at sealbox.com in the following weeks. It's priced at $59.99 for a 750 milliliter bottle, and it's bottled at 100 proof.
And as we're talking about this, we're actually sipping on the 11th anniversary Founders Edition from Chattanooga Whiskey. I like their products, the ones that I've had. I really, I love looking at the distillery tour on the Bourbon Obsessed website, but it makes you just want to go to the distillery even more, Ed, and I haven't been. So, they're being really innovative with how they are working with bourbon, working with Tennessee whiskey, and I just think I'm glad they're around. They're going to be here for a while, I think.
Yeah, no, I'm a fan of. I feel like I say this a lot, but I am a fan of a lot of brands, and Chattanooga Whiskey is definitely a brand that I'm a big fan of as well. I mean, they're innovative. They use a lot of different malted grains. They do a lot of different cool things, and I've really liked what they've been producing, and I really like what we're sipping on now, which with the 11th edition was the first one of these Founders blends that I had ever had, and I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, and so by comparison, it is 25% of their high rye mash bill, 50% of the Barrel 91 high malt, and then 25% of the Infinity blend. So it's similar, but a little bit different.
Well, and plus they're all Cellar things, so those individual components are different than they were 2 years ago.
I was going to have you explain Cellar for our our listeners who may not know how Cellar works. So,
well, I believe it came from the sherries originally, and it was like a series of barrels where you sort of take from one, put in another, and then put in another. So you have like this continuous process. So the oldest, in that case sherry, but in this case bourbon, would continue. It's also can be done without the multiple barrels. It can be done with just like large vats of some sort, which I believe is what they do, where you take some off and then you add new in all the time. So you just get a constant continuous blend of the old with new. So it's one of those, the same but different than what came before it.
Yeah, the concept of there's some of that original product still in there. And there's another company that does that. Is it Blade and Bow that says they've got some of the still some Stitzel Weller juice in their Cellar process.
But that's in the Blade and Bow 22.
Yes.
And at this point, yeah, it's not a huge amount.
It's going to be an infinitesimal amount of that. But yeah, so it's a process brought over from a different type of distilling, but it's working. for Chattanooga Whiskey, and I'm...
No, it's a cool concept. I mean, this whole thing is, I mean, who has 3 different ones of these, basically?
Right.
Nobody that I know of, and then blends them together. So, it's very unique, and like I said, I really enjoyed this 11th anniversary, and I'm looking forward to hopefully trying the 13th at some point.
I hope we will too.
Yeah,
so.
And again, I mean, reasonable price, $59.99. I mean, I'll buy a bottle when I see it.
That's right.
Before we go, since we recorded this episode earlier in the week, there have been a number of new releases that have been announced since our recording. I'll just list them here, and we're going to discuss them on our next episode. The first is Chicken Cock Ryeteous Rye, which is Chicken Cock's Kentucky Straight Rye whiskey finished in Goodwood Brewing blonde ale barrels. The next is Angel's Envy's newest Cellar Collection series, which is Volume 5, and a straight rye whiskey finished in French oak extra añejo tequila barrels. Finally, RD1 announced a 12-year-old cask-strength single-barrel bourbon, which commemorates their new home and brand destination, RD1 Distillery at the Commons in Lexington. We'll be talking about these in detail on our next episode. All right, Dean, I guess that wraps up this long list of new releases, and it about does it for this episode. I hope you've enjoyed this edition of the Bourbon Obsessed Bourbon Release News Podcast. Be sure to like and follow us at your preferred podcast provider so that you don't miss an episode, and don't forget to tell your friends too. You can also head over to bourbonobsessed.com to read the print version of my newsletters, where you can find links to press releases and full versions of the stories mentioned in this podcast. You can also sign up to have my newsletter delivered directly to your inbox while you're on my website. Check out some of our over 300 bourbon reviews and over 50 distillery write-ups. Finally, I can also be found on Instagram at bourbon_obsessed and on Facebook at Bourbon Obsessed. Have a great rest of the week, everybody.
Happy hunting, folks. And go out there and find these bottles.
And where can they find you, Dean?
They can find me on Instagram at Dean of Bourbon with underscores. And that's the only place you'll find me. But I look forward to hearing from you.
Excellent. Okay, cheers, everybody.